Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
Going to show up now. It's okay.
Here we are, another edition of Sports Junkies at RacineSportsZone.com.
Off to a flying start already with our producer.
Time to do a little packet talk. See Sparky Fifer with you from Sports Radio 1250 WSSP. Gery Woelfel from the Racine Journal-Times as we talk about the NFL draft from the previous weekend. We'll start off in round number 1. And I'll be honest, I didn't think Clinton Dix had any chance, the safety from Alabama, of falling to the Packers at their pick at 21. He fell, and then I was pleading on Twitter. I tweeted out, just say no, Ted. Please, just say no. Don't trade down. Because I was scared to death that he may trade back with Clinton Dix sitting there for him. He did it. They took him.
And I tweeted out, please, Ted, trade back and get Jimmy Ward plus an additional pick. Go ahead.
And Jimmy Ward's a great pick for the Niners. He's really going to help out San Francisco.
Absolutely.
San Francisco had the best draft in the NFC, but from the Packers,
couldn't agree more.
From the Packers' perspective, they got a safety, and the one thing that I loved most hearing from Darren Perry, the safeties coach, was his football IQ and just how smart he is of a football player. They have lacked that brains in the secondary since Nick Collins went down with injury, as far as getting guys in the right position and getting guys into the right coverages. If he brings that, if nothing else, it's a huge upgrade for the secondary.
I have a friend who is a player personnel director in the NFL, and I called him the day after the pick, and he goes, the Packers just got the new Aaron Rodgers on defense.
Oh, I hope so.
He goes on his board. Now, obviously, every player personnel judges guys differently.
Absolutely.
This guy has been in the game for over 25, probably 30 years, right? He's seen everybody that's come down the pike in the last 2 decades. He goes on his draft board. He had him somewhere in the 11, 12, 13 range.
That's where I thought he'd be.
And the Packers got him at 21.
Yep.
So I'm just basing it on this guy who has seen a lot of tape on this guy, is very familiar, very knowledgeable, and he said the Packers hit a home run.
So that's a first-round pick. After that, you get done Thursday night, you're going, all right, pressure's off of Ted. He got the biggest hole filled with Clinton Dix. Now, what will he do on day 2 in rounds 2?
By the way,
3?
what do you think the over-under is on papers around the country that every time they do a story on Clinton Dix, it's going to be ha-ha?
Absolutely.
You know, it's going to be their little thing.
Same thing in Alabama. No different.
You know.
Yeah,
by the way, you know what his first name is, right?
Hashan?
Very good.
It looks like Hashin, but it's Hashan.
Hashan. Yeah.
Okay, Devontae Adams.
You don't want to talk to me more about ha-ha?
No.
Okay.
Second round, Devontae Adams, the wide receiver from Fresno State. I'll be honest with you again here. I was sitting there looking at this pick, and I'm going, well, Lewis Nix is still there, the big nose tackle from Notre Dame. That could be a good pick. He fell way farther. So Ted doesn't take him. He takes a wide receiver. Now, again, Ted's had a good track record of wide receivers in the second round. James Jones, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, all of them in the second round. Devontae Adams has glue for hands. That's what he has. Very confident young kid. I think he very well could be the third wide receiver on this team at some point this year, if not right out of training camp. And I realize that Jared Boykin,
you know what?
who McCarthy loves, but it's a possibility.
I totally agree with you. I have absolutely no problem with the talent abilities of him, okay? I have a problem with him taking a receiver with the second pick, meaning Ted Thompson. Somehow, some way, when he went into the second round, he saw there were 3 tight ends on the board.
I thought that's what they were going to do going into the second round.
Absolutely.
I thought a tight end was their pick.
Absolutely.
I mean,
with Finley's status so up in the air, the likelihood is he won't come back. One of those 3 tight ends was there right for the take. And I guarantee you, Thompson said, let's be patient. One of them will fall to us. The third one was picked right ahead of the Packers. And I guarantee you, all of a sudden that game plan changed.
You're right about that. I agree with that. But I think the other point in all of this is I think they really like that kid Bostic at tight end. He was raw last year, obviously. I think they hope they can develop him.
I know that's the key, though.
Develop.
It developed. Right. Exactly. The window for Aaron Rodgers is the next 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
I mean, they have a chance right now to go to the Super Bowl if they would have a very good tight end. In today's NFL, where you pass the ball so much, you better have a good tight end. Look at all the great teams around the league. They have very good tight ends. And all of a sudden you look at the Packers roster and you go, Andrew Corliss? He's run-of-the-mill, if that.
Yeah, about average.
And to me, it's like he hits a home run with his safety pick. As my friend told me, the scout, he thinks he'll be an instant starter right off the bat.
I agree.
You get, let's say, Amaro or any of those other two tight ends that were picked right before them, he can come in and play right away.
Yeah.
The guy they got in the third round, Rodgers.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
All right. So Devontae Adams is the second round pick. I like him as a player. I think he's going to be fine for the Green Bay Packers. The next pick I didn't like. Kyrie Thornton, the defensive end from Southern Mississippi. He's got a quick first step, and that's what they talked about, the Packer coaches, after they drafted him. And that's fine. But my issue is he's 24. 24! So
now
by the time he gets
right?
down, by the time he gets over that first contract, you're knocking on 30.
Sure.
I mean, and now that first big contract should be right around 30 years old. So
I don't have a problem with that.
Too old to be taking in the third round. You want to take him on day 3, go ahead.
They obviously believe that he can play right away. A guy 24 years old is going to get some playing time.
Where is he going to play?
You wouldn't take him that early in the draft unless he felt he could get on your team right away.
We'll see how he looks. The age thing scares me a little bit there. Then they come back with your guy, Richard Rodgers, another Rodgers from California.
Richard's Fred Rodgers.
Well, now I wonder, will they make Aaron Rodgers' jersey say A. Rodgers?
Absolutely.
Instead of just Rodgers.
Yeah.
And then everybody has to go out and buy new jerseys. And the Packers make more money.
Okay.
Brilliant! That's the only reason they drafted the kid, so they can sell more Aaron Rodgers.
It was totally a marketing pitch. Same with Ha. All these shirts that.
Yes.
I guarantee you, if he has any kind of a year, he will sell as many jerseys as Rodgers simply because of his name.
I agree.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that. Yes. Regardless if you go with the first name or the last name. Okay, Richard Rodgers, California from tight end. He was
horrible.
At 275 at one point,
right.
Then dropped like 30 pounds. I went down to play kind of like a slot tight end. Now, what will the Packers make him do when he comes up here? That I don't know. There's no way, however, I would have drafted him in the third round.
Have you seen tape of this guy?
Yes.
He's horrible. I will go on record right now.
He's horrible.
No, I will say they'll start McCorliss, your young guy.
Bostic.
And he'll be like a third tight end.
Don't forget, they got Ryan Taylor.
I'm not a scout, NFL scout, but I'll tell you what, he was so slow. He had trouble cutting out of the brakes, and I go, no way. They somehow, some way, they got to get Finley to come back. If they don't get Finley to come back, I'm telling you, that offense is going to be a train wreck.
I'm not worried about that.
You know what?
You have Eddie Lacy, you've got Cobb, Jordy, you're fine. And by the way, a Hall of Fame quarterback.
By the way,
they're going to be fine.
You're right. They'll be fine. But if you have a tight end that can open up the middle for you, that can get deep down the middle on you, that opens the door for everybody else. They don't have anybody that can do that now.
Day 3. Teddy Thompson goes home.
It only gets worse.
Teddy Thompson goes home, gets some sleep. Comes back.
Probably too
Now,
much.
I really thought that he may try and go up in the 4th round to start the day. Didn't. Sat pat. Didn't make any trades throughout the draft. Takes a guy named Carl Bradford. Now, Bradford, part of that AASU team, I'm sure the Badger fans probably remember him a little bit, more of an outside linebacker. Now, there's already been talk amongst these people that do this for a living that he probably is better inside. Then you hear the Packer coaches talk, and I'm not convinced that he's necessarily going to go inside. So that's what I want to see, because they needed an inside linebacker, and I don't think Bradford's going inside.
So the Packers are saying he's playing outside, right?
That's what it looks like.
Okay, so what happens to Perry?
Well, forget Nick Perry for a second.
Why?
You have Mike Neal, Nick Perry, Julius Peppers. You've got a plethora of guys on that opposite end who play Matthews.
Yeah, and I don't see Peppers as a linebacker, outside linebacker. Although
that's where he's going to play.
They're going to play him there. But you just took a guy as your number 1 pick 2 years ago, and what are you saying? He's not good enough. He's not cutting it.
Well, he got hurt. Well, remember the other thing. That's the whole thing about Nick Perry, and Perry even said it after it went down. When Matthews went out and Perry went over to his side to play outside linebacker, you remember how good he was those couple of games?
Yeah.
Then Matthews comes back, Perry goes back to the other side and goes back to being average. And Perry said at the end of the year, he's more comfortable on Matthews' side. That's when he played in college.
I believe it.
Okay, well, if he's that good on Matthews' side, then why don't you go to the All-Pro, or not the All-Pro, but the Pro Bowl, and play Matthews, and go, Clay, you're going the other side.
Hey, they did it with Ryan Braun in baseball,
Yes.
right? They moved him from left to right.
It's just a question that I got. If he's that much better on that other side, then put him on the other side.
And I saw this guy, again, I hate to say this, based on my own personal observation. He looks slow as heck. He doesn't have any quickness. And I'm thinking, if you're playing on the outside, you better have quickness. You better have instinctive
That's why people think he's going inside.
He's a big physical guy. But again, they got guys at that spot.
Well, inside they don't have anybody.
Inside, but if they're talking about playing,
right. I agree with you.
It's like, why waste your pick because he's the best player on the board? This team should be poised to win the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
Forget about this crap 6-7 years down the road. It's now.
Yep. All right, next pick, center of Ohio State. They probably needed somebody there because they don't have it.
That was a good pick.
J.C. Treader is supposedly going to be the center, but hadn't really played there. Corey Lindsley, the center from Ohio State, first big team this year. So I like that pick too.
So do I. You know what? And as they've shown over the years, you can just plug in a center.
Usually.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Rodgers will figure it out.
How many different centers have they had in the last 4 years?
4.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
Jared Abbrederis, the next pick. I applauded when it happened. If for no other reason, A, Ted took a Badger. That was kind of cool. And B, Abbrederis kind of reminded me of a little bit different of a version of Jordy Nelson, a little bit. I mean, I think Abbrederis could make this football team. Maybe as a fifth wide receiver.
You know, he kind of reminds me... Remember Jeff Query?
Yes.
He reminds me of a speed guy.
Much nicer guy.
Well, okay, that's another whole different. But I see some similarities there, too. Bill Schroeder, a speed guy.
Yeah, but I don't think Abbrederis is all that fast.
I don't think Abbrederis is
Schrader fast necessarily.
No, but who is? I mean,
no, you're right.
So
Abbrederis there. I think he makes the team. Then Dimitri Goodson out of Baylor.
Who?
You don't know who he is? Do you remember Mike Goodson, the old running back for the Packers? It's his brother.
Okay.
Demetrius Goodson was a point guard for Gonzaga, I believe.
I heard the story, yes.
Then left and went to Baylor.
He wasn't John Stockton, by the way.
When the season starts, he's going to be 25. What are we doing?
Hey.
And on top of that, he has no clue how to play cornerback. So you're going to have to, he's going to be a practice squad guy until he's 30 before you actually get him on the active roster.
That's my point about this whole draft. It should have been, I love the idea of draft and develop, the concept. Okay, it's fine to a certain point. They got to win now. I mean, you're playing for guys 4 or 5 years down the road. Forget about it. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to hear anything about that.
Next guy, the last pick, the 7th round pick, Jeff Janis. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
Saginaw Valley State, wide receiver. That'll do it for our sports junkies here.
You don't even want to talk about him?
Doing a little packet talk. Steve Sparky, Fifer, along with Gery Woelfel of the Racine Journal-Times. Overall, I think they'll look back and they're probably going to have 3 starters from this draft when it's all said and done.
I'll say 1.
Not this year.
I'll say.
When we look back in 3 or 4 years, there'll be 3 guys from this class starting.
Who?
I think Clinton Dix will be starting.
That's the only one.
I think Devontae Adams will be starting.
He's going to beat out Cobb and...
No, I don't think Cobb or Nelson. One of them
they're going to be
there
for the next 6 years.
No, one of them will not be re-signed when they're
okay. I see.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
Devontae Adams will start, and I think Lindsley will eventually end up being a starter as well. He is Gery Woelfel. I'm Steve Sparky Fifer. We'll see you next time here on Sports Junkies at RacineSportsZone.com.